I know we're talking about Chadwick Boseman and people have passed away. I know, when I think about that, I'm thinking about Donda. It just came out literally today. And we all took a chance to listen to it before the podcast came out. We pushed the podcast back just to take out time to listen to Donda, the Kanye West album, the mythical album that's finally made it to streaming platforms. What did y'all think?
Let me get my thoughts out the way, because I know Spence, out of the three of us, he's kind of like, he's been going to the events, he's been following it, he's been finding ways how to, get the album illegally. You know what I mean?
He has the full in-depth detail.
Yes, and listeners, as a disclaimer, he doesn't have the album illegally. He was just looking at ways to see how can he listen to the album in its entirety?
Supposedly.
Yeah. I mean, I was in the Reddit streets. That's all.
Okay. So you hear the excuses building up. See? But what I will say though is, as far as this album goes, is I already finished my first listen. I'm definitely going to listen to it again after the podcast is done. I enjoy the album. It is a long album. Listeners, if you know, with me, long albums sometimes turn me off. But with this, it's a little different. I feel like, what's this album? About like 24 tracks? So I feel like this album, the 24 tracks work for this album.
26
track work for this album. I like majority of this album. I think this album is pretty good. Will it be album of the year? I think we have to listen to a few albums back to back to determine it. But this album is up there. I think it's good. Off of my first listen only, I think it's damn good. I like majority of the features. Problem I have with it is there's a lot of auto-tune rappers that are featured. And I know if you go online, like Hot New Hip Hop or some other sites that have like the production and the features listed, you can find that. But unfortunately, that means you have to go out your way to research that. On the actual Apple Music, where I listen to my music at, it has a breakdown who's featured. So it's kind of hard to decipher which auto-tuned rapper is which, because they all sound the fucking same. But what I will say is Kanye has orchestrated an album where they all can shine. And the top two songs that I like from this is Junior and No Child Left Behind. Those are the songs that really stuck out to me that I enjoy a lot. There's other good songs too. Like I like Okay, Okay. I think that song is dope. But those are my top two songs that I like. And I think this album's good. I think it's dope. Listeners, we're definitely going to give you a more thorough breakdown, because at the time of this recording, the album just dropped. So we was kind of like listening to it, try to digest as much as we could before we had to get into recording.
Just for the listeners.
Just for you guys.
We have something to say.
I mean, you guys are all candy asses, jabronis, and Rudy Poos. But when I
let that one go.
Yeah. But we appreciate you guys so much that we're going to listen to this album, try to give a quick review. And then in a future episode, we're going to do a real breakdown of it. I like this album. 2 thumbs up, Kanye.
Definitely. I mean, like you guys said, like I agree with you. It's a great album. I think, to me, being that I've had the experience of seeing this like in live already prior to it actually being released, and having being in the Reddit streets, you could say, getting the different types of leaks and so on and so forth. I'm still a fan of this album. This is a lot longer. This is twice the length of what the show was. I think typically the show and the cuts that I had so far were like 45 minutes. This is roughly an extra hour. So like you said, similar to Lau, I really didn't. That was the only thing that I was a little hesitant on, was the practically 2 hours to listen to a whole album, especially it's even longer once you start saying, oh, let me rewind this so I can hear this part again, or, oh, I like this part, so let me listen to this song twice. So you could easily find yourself listening to this album in one go at like 2.5 hours. So that was the only gripe I had. I think the music came out perfectly. Kanye was able to do do what he kind of delivered on in the shows that I went to, as well as the one he did in Chicago that we heard about, where he actually ended it off with him. I believe it was him or somebody else lighting themselves on fire. So, which was very interesting. And I believe he brought out Marilyn Manson and the baby for that show, and West Side Gun as well. But like back to the album is like it definitely pulled out like it. Kanye's always finds a way of doing a show. I will give him that. And I think being able to see what he's done prior in terms of the listening events, it gives me it allows me to realize like, okay, this is more of a stadium album. This is like an album that is meant to be played at a very high volume, right? Just because of like the spatial audio openness or whatever you want to call it. But to me, my favorite songs, of course, was Jail, which has Jay-Z, which I'm a huge fan of. When he did a Chicago show, he actually did have the baby on there, but I guess from what I'm seeing right now on Instagram, there's this back and forth on whether Kanye is saying he removed the baby because of his manager. The baby's manager didn't get a clearance for him, but now the baby's manager saying that this is a lie, and Kanye kind of took him off because of the whole thing that the baby's going through, cancellation thing. But nonetheless, I'm just happy Jay-Z's still on that on the album. Hurricane is also another favorite, as well as Jonah, which has Jonah. It's like that's the one thing about this album, right? Where one song is Jonah and one song is Junior. Jonah is the one with Lil Durk on it. So that's the one that's more of my favorite. One of the favorites I had, I'll say. But it was a great album, though. I think to me, this is like just the more complete Kanye gospel version. Like this is the version of the Kanye gospel music that fans have wanted, and in the sense of like what we've heard based off like the Sunday services so far.
Yeah, I agree with that. This sounds like a better version of Jesus is King, like for sure. Maybe like Jesus is King 2.0. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
I enjoy this album. I think it's a good sounding album. I don't think, it's necessarily Kanye's best piece of work, but I think for what he's doing right now, it's pretty good. I don't mind the fact that he has a whole bunch of features on there because, like, we do eventually hear Kanye doing what he's doing. And not only that, like, I think we were kind of prepped for that type of album anyway from the shows. So, like, I'm not necessarily upset about it. Not only that, but every feature on there had a decent verse. Even Fabio's verse wasn't bad.
Yep,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
Exactly.
I was surprised. I'm not going to lie. So, shouts out to Fabio for, bringing one of his better verses that I've heard from him. Overall, I can say that I enjoyed the album. I thought it was pretty good. I think it's going to be somewhere in the top 10, maybe in the top 5. I don't know. There's been a lot of good music that came out this year. As I was saying in the Loud, it's like the 4 warlords of rap have released recently. Like we already had J. Cole, Kanye's dropped, Drake's on the way. We might have somebody else, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
So like, it's been an interesting time in rap to say the least.